Mark, you're one of those guys that when people see you, they're immediately like, that guy's tall. Like you must get asked several times a day, how tall are you?
Yes, I mean sometimes a lot more in America. I mean a lot less in America. In Mexico, of course, my height was a big differential between myself and the average like Mexican height. And but here in America, there's people a little bit taller. The average height is about a little higher, so
Yeah,
a
it's
little bit
definitely
less.
not 6'6" though.
No. 6'6" is a good height though. I like it.
Yeah, you're one of those people that when you see you, you're like, oh, that guy has played a sport at some sort of professional level, possibly basketball.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that a lot. Like it's the way I dress too. Like I walk around everywhere with Jordans on, or I'm 44 years old, but um, my wife in Spanish she calls me a rapero anciano, which means an ancient rapper, because that's the way like I kind of and I laugh. I looked in the mirror and I'm like, usually I wear my hat backwards and I'm wearing some kind of jogging suit or something. It's just I don't want to grow up, so luckily my wife accepts me the way I am, but yeah, everyone thinks I'm an athlete.
You posted on Instagram the other day that you were back in the ring for the first time in 4 years. So
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
the first part of that was that in Mexico?
It was almost in Mexico. It was in Laredo on the first night, and then the next night was in El Paso. And like it was 4 years. I got into ring a little bit here in Knoxville. Kane and Dr. Tom Pritchard have a school here. So a couple nights I went down and did some in ring like blow up drills and stuff. But I firmly believe at this age, like my bumps are limited. So I just wanted to make sure everything, in terms of I ran every day a few miles, made sure everything was good. But like I wrestled and it was good. Two shoe shows went well, and I missed the ring, and it's crazy. Just even like if I felt like I didn't skip a beat almost, and it was 4 years. But like uh, I guess it's a weird thing. It's just time changes, but not that many. Time goes on, but things don't change that much, it seems, and it was good to be back, like almost in Mexico. I think at the end of April I'm going back and wrestling some shows there in Mexico City, Cancun, and I want to say Merida. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't been back in Mexico since, but almost, like I said, El Paso and Laredo.
Your physique is clearly still in ring shape. Like it was phenomenal. Like you're like, oh, I'm 44 now, the ancient rapper. No, like you're just as jacked as your WCW days.
Well, yeah, I mean that is. I felt like I looked the part, and that's important to me. I didn't want to be. Age is just a number as long as you still look the part, Because if I
Yeah.
came back and I looked like a little bit off, and I grant you, I still have for my dates at the end of April, like I'm gonna improve my body even another 20-25%, because these things that when you're in a regular life of working, a 9 to 5 or just not training to wrestle for years and years, you work out, but you don't work out to that extreme level like you would if you're in ring, and so I basically for 3 years I trained like a just a normal person, maintaining and just keeping a halfway decent diet. But like, once I decided to get back into the ring, I knew that a lot of decisions would change, what I ate, how I slept, uh, how I stretched, like when I was wrestling, I was always like a guy who was always very active and stuff, hyperactive and moved around a lot. I would always stretch and stretch and stretch all day, like stretch. People thought I was weird. I was always touching my toes and, but like that's really stretching is very vital. And I haven't done yoga or anything, and I've tried it and I just don't like it, but I try when I stretch out, I try to mimic as many yoga moves as I can, so and I'm the guy like on Instagram that follows all these health and safety, like stretches and stuff, and I'll save them for later, and I'll literally like watch these videos in the gym and mimic these stretches, over and over, and it just helps. Even 10, 15, 20 minutes a day helps.
I would think the greatest motivation to stay in shape, like we're talking during your prime here, is the fact that you're going to be walking around on Monday night on TV in your underwear.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean that is a big. And also that's what I was always known for. Like not known for, but
Yeah.
like I was quote unquote a body guy. Like
You and
and
all the natural born thrillers were body
yeah,
guys.
yeah. So it doesn't work like, and especially in Mexico. When I was the Marco Corleone character in Mexico, that was my thing. Like um, and even more so like doing television in Mexico. They're the Latin culture is very it's a it's a they're not afraid to show some skin. So when I get on TV and do these shows, before I know it, I always have my shirt off. They con me to take my shirt off and stuff, and it worked. Take my shirt off and showing an 8-pack helped cover up some of my lack in Spanish the first couple of years. So but then I learned Spanish, and everything else changed. So
What did you weigh at your ultimate body guy peak?
weigh
Yeah.
probably 250, 255. I have
At like
a really athletic
5%
frame.
body fat though.
Yeah, not much body fat.
Yeah.
It's very well proportioned as well. It wasn't like I think I could have held 285, 290 pounds easy, and still looked halfway normal. If that makes any sense, because I was very proportionate.
Yeah. So if we go way back here, Mark, like I think that wrestling kind of found you through a series of, very interesting events, and we'll get into that. But like, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
It was always geared towards sports. It was always about sports. Growing up in Syracuse, Auburn, New York, it's called actually Auburn, New York. Big Yankee country, upstate New York. So like Reggie Jackson, I loved Reggie Jackson. I love them at 44 now, and he was number 44. Syracuse basketball growing up, I always had aspirations of playing basketball, anything, basketball, baseball, football, but it was all about sports, always. I can
And then
remember
you
my
went to
dad.
college for basketball, right?
Yeah, it was Division III. I played Division III, a smaller college here in around Rochester area in New York. Good competition. I really blossomed into a more like elite athlete in college. High school, I felt like I graduated at age 17, so it was like I still had like a baby young body, going into college, and then I filled out a little more in college, and then once I started getting more of a man body, that's when the wrestling came about and stuff. So just in time, but still, even when I started, I still had more of a young frame. I didn't peak till like my late 20s probably.
So what were you doing for work when you were in college?
Nothing. I mean, college. I mean, we had work programs and stuff on school,
But it was
and
basketball.
yeah, with basketball and stuff. But so really nothing. I mean, I didn't get a job until after I decided to. What originally what I had done is, and that kind of the segue into like how my wrestling career kind of began. After my sophomore year of playing basketball, a couple of my friends were graduating and they moved down to Florida, Orlando, Florida. And they started their careers in food service. So they said, "Hey, Mark, why don't you, we were all good friends and stuff. I was going to go into my junior year, and they're, of course, starting their careers. I said, why don't you come down, do us a favor, drive the U-Haul so we can drive our cars, and spend the summer with us." They lived on right on Universal Boulevard there, so right near SeaWorld. So it was right in the hot, So I didn't have a car there.
Oh
So
yeah,
basically,
International Drive, right?
International Drive, yes, International Drive
Yeah.
Boulevard. I'm sorry, it's been so long. International Drive,
Oh, there's
right
Universal
there.
Studios there. Makes sense.
Yeah, right there on near SeaWorld, and so I got a job in the summertime waiting tables at a Denny's there, and right there on International Drive and near SeaWorld. And that was the deal. Like I worked the graveyard shift at night. We were open 24 hours.
Oh, I bet you saw some shit.
Well, nobody want. Yeah, I saw some shit. Nobody really wanted to work that gig. So I made a little deal. Like, and my friends, they started their careers. They're working 70-hour weeks. So literally they had the weekends off. So they're ready to go crazy because they're still young guys themselves, and so it was the summertime and stuff. So I'd get to have the weekends off as long as I worked the crappy graveyard shift. So that's what I did. And yeah, you saw some characters, and one of the characters, a few of the characters that came in one night was actually the night that really kind of changed my life. And working at Denny's was probably like 11 at night, and these two guys came in. One was name was Barry Houston. Another guy's name was Alex Wright. Alex Wright was that's Wonder Kid in WCW. Actually, I wrestled him a ton in WCW. And the other guy, Barry Houston, I don't want to use the word like, he was more of an enhancement talent on like the Saturday night shows and stuff where they filmed there in Universal Studios in Orlando. So I guess they had just finished their gig of filming there and got some food there at Denny's. So I waited on them and just conversating and stuff. And, you know, the guy Alex is more like to himself and just eating and stuff. And the other guy, Barry, was more conversational. And, you know, he asked me like, hey, you know, there's nobody really in the place. It was kind of dead at the place. And he's like, you're a pretty big guy. You know, you play sports. You like wrestling? I was like, man, I used to watch wrestling, but yeah, I play basketball. I'm just down here for the summer with my friends and stuff. He's like, oh man, you should be a wrestler. And I was like, you know, and I was still under the illusion that you know, maybe I'm not going to go pro in Division III, but I always thought that I'd be able to play internationally or something, sneak on one of these international teams. But yeah, so the night went on, we just chit-chatted more, and it wasn't like a formal invite, but like I brushed off the whole wrestling thing. We had some wrestling stories, you know, and they left. But the one thing I noticed, and what my ego, like my athletic ego was, is I'd look at other guys and say, you know, like I see them walking out. It's like, man, well, physically I'm bigger than those dudes. Number one, I know I'm more athlete than they are. They can't 360 dunk. I can. But I saw them hopping into a sweet ride. It was probably a rental, but like I just had an illusion of like, man, if they're doing it, like, I mean, you know, how hard can it be? And in the most respectful way, because they're really nice dudes. Well, Barry Houston was. Alex Wright was just to himself. So they leave, whatever, but nonchalant meeting, cool. They left. Later on that night, it was probably like 3 a.m, and there was nobody in the restaurant. It was just me, the dishwasher, and the cook. And these two kids come in, not I say kids, but like probably early 20s. They come in, they ask, hey, can we have 4 quarters for $1? I said, sure thing. And as I'm opening the register, I look up and there's like a gun and a pipe. The one's got a gun, the other's got a pipe. They're like, give me all the money. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Just don't shoot. Don't shoot. I gave them the thing. They got it and they left. It wasn't that dramatic of a scene, you know? And that's when they left, my young punk ass thought like, wow, this is, oh my God, I got held up. This is kind of cool. Like, this is a first, you know? And because I you know, before then, I came from Auburn, New York, you know, and a small town of like 26,000 people. And then in school, the Cayuga College in Penn Yan, New York. Penn Yan, New York is like an Amish town. So, you know, and from there, those two things, I was in like a small world. And then I go to Orlando.
Yeah. You get robbed at gunpoint. You know?
I'm thinking, man, this is the wild, wild west, like gunslinging. And so I got held up and the cops came.
The police? Is that the next move?
Yeah, the police came. Came and yeah, I called them. You know, I told them what happened, blah, blah, blah. They did a report. By 5 a.m, I was out of there. They caught me. The regular store manager came in, handled everything. I went home. Now it was like 5 a.m. still. So I didn't want to wake my friends up because they're sleeping. They got to get up and they got to work 12-hour days. So I just waited, you know, I'm just going to go to the community. We lived in an apartment complex with, you know, those community pools, jacuzzi. It's like, you know, I'm just going to go there in the jacuzzi and chill out. And lo and behold, when I go to the pool and stuff, I see that wrestler, Barry Houston. He's there with a girl who actually he was dating from the same, just ironically dating in Orlando. And he was hanging out with her at the pool. They were drinking, and you know the conversation, you know, continued. I told him what had happened. He's like, "Wow, that's amazing." And he said, "See, when you know, sometimes in life anything can happen. So like, he's like, I think you should reconsider this wrestling." Now, like, I have my shirt off now, and I was always like physically, genetically jacked, like Mike Sanders would say. I always, you know, like when he saw me with my shirt off, he's like, man, you're built really well. Like you're still young. He goes, you're probably going to fill out pretty well in the next few years. And I said, I think so. I hope so. You know, my dream was always to look like Ivan Drago, you know, from Rocky IV. That's what I was always shooting.
You will lose.
Yes. I must break you. But yeah, so we had a long conversation.
He dies.
If he dies, he dies. We had a long conversation, not too long, I mean, but long enough for him to say, look, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, I got the police people were supposed to come to my apartment, and I was supposed to help them do the drawing or whatever, for the
like the composite sketch.
Composite sketch, that's what it's called. I said, besides that, nothing. He goes, okay, well, I'm probably gonna sleep in. I'm a little drunk right now, but when I wake up and we have to be to Universal Studios tomorrow around like 3 or something, they're gonna film again. And he goes, why don't you come along as my guest? I'll have you look around. I introduce you to Sarge. Sarge was the head of the power plant, and he actually was on the ring crew. So that was his side gig. And then, and he hated doing the ring crew and set up the ring and stuff. So he get pissed off and go back to the school and take it out on the students, and so I said, I accepted his offer. I said, sure. And I went down there and stuff. And it was crazy. He introduced me to, it was like I had a blast from the past, because my wrestling recollection was I stopped, right around the time, like right at the WWF era, where like all the cartoon and stuff and the WrestleMania 3, probably got to about WrestleMania 4 or 5. And I kind of just put it on hold on ice. Wrestling is just kind of disregarded. So a lot of those stars I watched growing up, the Mr. Perfects, the Rick Rudes, the Brutus Beefcake, all those guys are in WCW now.
Yeah.
So I'm walking through these the backstage of Universal, and I'm seeing these guys. I saw Virgil. I was like, holy shit. I saw I think the $1 Million Man was there too. Like all those old WWF characters were now, in WCW. I saw Hacksaw. I saw like Booker T and Stevie Ray. I remember Barry Houston said, "Hey, Book, Stevie, Mark's gonna try out the power plant next month." He goes, "Don't hurt no one, Mark." As he said, I remember it rings in my head all the time. And to think I wrestled with Booker T in WrestleMania 20, so I saw Rookie Goldberg, like passing through, so it was a great experience. And the funniest thing was Sarge, he was setting up the ring and looked like he was hating life. And Barry introduced me to him, saying, "Sarge, this is Mark. He's actually going to try out the power plant." And he's like, I said, "Hey, Sarge," put my hand out, and he goes, "Do your fucking squats." That's all he said to me. "Do your fucking squats." I was like, holy shit. So I actually went home, and did my squats. But and that was just like a blast from the past. I felt like it was something that was meant to be, especially with the whole hold up thing and the just like Barry Houston, his girlfriend was in my same complex. I decided to go take a swim at 5 a.m.
Like a scene out of a movie. Seriously.
Yeah, it's crazy. You couldn't write a better story, and the best part of it all, this was like the ultimate, like, wow, is after I met everyone, they had stuff to do, so I just wanted to say hello, and I was walking off the lot there, gonna go go back to my place. As I'm walking off, I see a black Mercedes pull up, and as it gets closer, it kind of stops. The window goes down, and it was Macho Man. He looked at me, and he goes, "Ooh, I thought you were Alex Wright," in his voice, and he drove off. But it was crazy because Alex Wright was the other guy that was involved in the late night dinner, and it was the Macho Man, snapping to a Slim Jim. Like, it's like the 13-year-old me just like exploded at that, it was crazy, and it was that was like the cherry on the top of the sundae, like. After that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to train. The hell with my junior year of school. I'm going to make this, and I'm going to move to Atlanta. And it's actually what I did, so.
Well, I think that we all have those moments in our life that change and shape the direction of our life. I don't know if most people have it condensed into like a few hours like you did with meeting professional wrestlers and getting held up at gunpoint and composite sketches and then going to a jacuzzi at 5 a.m. Like, this is insane.
Yeah. It's crazy. But I think sometimes it's supposed to feel a little crazy, like, I have strong faith, and I believe things always happen for a reason. Like, I pray for things, and I feel like I never feel like it's some kind of magical thing that, you know, for those who believe in God, that God just grants you these spells like some magician. I believe he gives you opportunities in order to make your dreams come true. You know, like he gives you the right avenues and keys, and you just have to look for them and, you know, and take them, you know, take them. Um, you know, I just really, you know, I'm thankful for all those chain of events, and more so like Barry Houston, you know, like, I don't keep in contact with them anymore. You know, I'm sure with Facebook and stuff, I could find them, I could track them down. But you know, him and Alex Wright, you know, he didn't have not much to do with me at that time, but like him and I became pretty good friends as well. We wrestled each other many times. You know, so it's just crazy. It's crazy how things work out.
I think we've all heard the stories of what training at the power plant's like, but what was it like for you?
You know, it was all right. It was tough. It was tough, but I was definitely ready. You know, the one thing was in my favor was the tryout itself favored the athlete that was more like well-rounded. You know, like I could run efficiently. I could you know, I had good endurance and agility and speed. So all those things, and I had good cardio as well. So I was big, but like I said, I was always well proportioned. You know, I could be 240 pounds, but I look like I'm 220. You know, so
yeah,
you know, even I, you know, but then as I got bigger, you know, as I got to 250, 255, I looked more like 280 because just the way I wore it, you know. So
yeah, from that fateful night to you making your first appearance on Nitro, how long was that?
That was that whole thing happened, I want to say in October of 97. October of 97 that happened. And the first Nitro, well, my first signing of my contract at WCW was April 7th, 1999. So do the math, it's like maybe a year and a half, pretty much, you know, a year and a half from time that hold up to contract, about a year and a half. And then after signing, that was April 7th, 1999. We did some Saturday night TV appearances. I say we because that whole time it was always me and all the power plant, you know, the guys that are giving opportunities to the Palombos, the Stasiaks, the O'Hares, the Johnny the Bulls. You know, they're all giving us, you know, opportunities at the time. So we did some Saturday night stuff, but when I really, our first big stuff was Nitro, was June 26th, year 2000. That was my 23rd birthday. So I remember these dates. I'm really good with dates.
You're like Rain Man here with these dates.
Yeah, right.
Amazing.
That's right. And it's funny as I refer to myself, and we can talk about this later, but I grade cards for a living. I grade sports cards, and that's my profession and stuff, which we've talked about before. And you know,
that's
like
what you do now for a living. You grade sports cards.
I grade.
That's a huge business right now too.
Big business. Like, in fact, my brother's like, he had an armored truck come to his house and pick up 30 to 35. Like, I want to say 35 of his cards to bring them to a vault in Oregon. That's where all the big wigs keep all their big cards, their big money cards. My brother's 35 cards were valued at like $5.1 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like, you know, so my brother's 11 months younger than me. So, you know, when we were growing up and stuff, we were very competitive athletically. The difference was he's 6'2", 6'3", and I'm 6'6". You know, those 3 inches mean a big difference in athletics, you know?
Sure.
But, you know, he went on to be an engineer, which, you know, he makes good money and stuff. And when I was out wrestling and stuff, so like in those years, like 2007, 2008, when the economy was down and stuff, he was buying up all these, like he would play sports cards like the stock market. You know, he knew which cards were going to go up. He stuck to his, like, you know, just getting the Messis, the Jordans, the LeBron James, the core players, the core superstars, the GOATs per se.
Yeah.
You know, and he bought some crazy cards, like, and the boom just hit during the pandemic and stuff, and sports cards become really, really hot again, where all the, you know, athletes and DJs and stuff are getting into it and stuff. So, and it was always a childhood passion of both of ours, So logically,
Well, now you're on both ends of it. You know, he's collecting them and you're grading them.
Yeah, I collect them too. I started collecting too after wrestling, and then when some of my investments like hit well, I thought to myself, man, there's got to be a way I can do this, incorporate this, because I was kind of lost after wrestling. At least, I could have still wrestled in the pandemic, and I was like, there's no even sense of doing this. So I just put it on hold, but I didn't know what to do in terms of work, So the sports cards, I moved here to Knoxville, Tennessee, because there's a company here called HGA, and we grade and authenticate cards. Like, our deal is we're kind of like the newbies. We're like rookies on the scene. The big for people who know about cards, the big companies are BGS and PSA grading companies.
Right.
But the thing about us is like BGS and PSA, they're kind of like, they're the industry's finest right now, but they have got boring slabs. We call them the cases. They're kind of boring, and we have colored slabs, custom slabs, which people love. And, it's really kind of, it's working well for us, So
don't they also have like 6-month waiting lists right now too?
We're behind a little bit. All the companies are behind. We're a little less behind, but just a couple times we had to shut down for COVID. When all these variants whip through and everyone gets it, it's kind of rocky roads for about a month, and that stuff slows down production. And the thing is, the people sending the cards in the grade hasn't slowed down, because it's like the industry normal now. Like, to have like a card just raw, ungraded, is almost like, if it's good, you got to protect the investment, so
Sure.
You send it in. That's what I do, the professional grading. I do about 160 200 cards per day, and I got my reading glasses on. I'm looking at all the corners. We grade by corners, edges, surface, and and centering. And it's just a card. It's crazy to look at. You can look at a card and you can say, oh, it's perfect, the eye. But once you get under a light and a little bit of magnification, like, it's crazy. It's crazy how a 10 card can turn into an 8.5, like, in a snap, and that's the big difference.
I've also seen people collecting and grading like obscure things, like a Thomas Jefferson autograph or something like that.
Yeah, like
do
crazy
those?
stuff. Yeah, like my brother, who's super huge. He's always getting to these crazy auctions, because after a while, like, you get all these big cards, and you're like, what's next? And you always try to get one up your collection. And and the other day he was looking at this auction for a Ronaldo player card, but of him when he was 9 years old playing. So it was a card from, like, I want to say 1997 or I don't know, but it was like Ronaldo was 9 years old, and it was 9-year-old him. It had his name on there, and it was going for some ridiculous money, like $16,000 or something. But
jeez.
yeah,
Well, what a fun little tangent this was into the trading cards.
Yeah, right.
But and what a mug. Oh, that's what she said, mug.
As you said, we love The Office, like everyone loves The Office.
So good.
And we saw this mug, and I we always give each other little gifts and stuff. So who knows when it was? It might have just been like a small, like, surprise gift, but yeah. So
what was the big break for you in WCW, do you think?
The big break was, I think, Vince Russo, in the fall of WCW. I hate to say that, but when it was, ratings were diving, and, like, all those same ex-WWF guys were kind of just draining the payroll, so, and they weren't really producing anymore, so it was dying. So, basically all those young guys who were ready to go all got a chance. The Natural Born Thrillers, like those guys I just mentioned, Johnny the Bull and the Chuck Palumbos, the Stasiaks O'Hares, we all got chances. Elix Skipper, Reno, Alan Funk, Kiwi. So it just basically, that was our break. Vince Russo, that new blood came in, and we kind of like the Natural Born Thrillers. It was a great thing about breaking out on the TV. It was kind of easy for us, actually, because it's like imagine starting the first day of school at a new school, but you're with 6-year friends, 7-year friends, like, we probably got a little bit of heat because we were too cliquey, cliques never work out in wrestling sometimes. And we backstage we stuck to each other, and nobody punked us, like, and there's always going to be people, if you're just solo, if you're riding solo as a youngster, there's going to be people wrestlers that help you and lead you in the right direction. Then there's other guys that get jealous, maybe want to take advantage of you, or don't give you much shit in a match or something. But when we were, with the boys, like nobody messed with us, I mean, people messed with us, but we held our own,
Yeah. Who do you think was the most underrated of the Natural Born Thrillers?
I think the most underrated was probably the, I mean, in the realm of stars, I think any one of us could have excelled and became a star, like, I mean, like really became like in Mexico, I became a big star, like a real big star. Like, it was more probably for TV that I did and stuff, but, O'Hare had a lot of star power, probably, the look, he had the probably best look of all of us.
And then when I saw him do the Shanton Bomb for the first time, I was like, wait a second, a guy that big shouldn't be able to move like that.
Yeah. Everyone at that power plant were pretty athletic freaks. Once we got that core and got the tryout over with, like we went to work. We were well trained and stuff. And Palumbo too. Like he had a lot of star power. His motorcycles and stuff. He's done TV. With his show on Discovery and stuff after wrestling. I loved the name Above Average Mike Sanders so much. Above Average Mike Sanders. He was smooth on the mic.
So good on the mic.
Like I feel like he didn't get a chance in WWE. And I feel like if he did get his chance, he would have hit a home run. So plenty of guys. Like
I cut you off. You were saying Stasiak too, who
Stasiak,
amazing
he's,
look.
Second generation guy. Where his father had big success, and for one reason or another, like everyone had their own path and successes, but everybody had a chance. I think we all got a chance, one of it, except for Sanders. I feel like Sanders could have gotten a little better chance in WWE.
How did you guys find out that WCW was being bought by Vince?
There was always rumblings of it backstage, and then it was just, I think it was a Panama City show where they came, Shane McMahon came with.
That's how you found out?
Yeah, it was kind of, I mean, like there was rumors and stuff, but you didn't know it was true. And then we knew about it, like, I want to say the night before, or like the morning of or whatever. We were already there. I know we were already in Panama City, but there was uncertainty the whole time. Like, is this show going to happen? And I wasn't actually on that Nitro show, but I did the dark match. Oh, they did a dark match before they went to TV, so that was crazy. I did a dark match. It was, I want to, I don't even remember who I wrestled, but, I remember coming back from my match, coming backstage, and those guys were there. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And, I felt good because I had a good match. At that dark match, I had a good match. And I remember the crowd, because it was the first match too, like the crowd participation was pretty sweet. So I got good pops and stuff. And I remember coming backstage, I looked pretty good in shape and stuff. So I felt confident. Whatever WWE, was going to go on, and whatever direction they were going to take us, I felt like I had a good chance because, like I said, we were all like young gunners. We all had great bodies, our wrestling lives in front of us, and we weren't big overhead. Like all those, like I said, all those big stars are making big money. The Lex Lugers and the Kevin Nashes and stuff, and they're all making big Buff Bagwell, and we weren't. We got entry contracts and stuff. We made decent money, but easy contracts to pick up. So so a lot of us were also one of the first 10 to do like the invasion angle.
Yeah. Do you remember the reaction to people seeing Shane McMahon backstage at Nitro?
Yeah, there was a mixture. It depends, like, kind of what kind of wrestler you are. There are some, like me, I was always a fan of his, so I saw him and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be pretty freaking cool, I want to mix it up because he seemed like a cool dude, like I have an Uncle Pete that reminds me of Shane McMahon a little bit, like, and Shane McMahon was exactly the guy I thought he was, so for me, it was cool. There's other guys that are kind of marking out a little bit. Like, you know, I don't know. It just seemed like they, you know, wanted to start the butt kissing right away. And then there are other guys I think didn't care because they had big contracts with WCW that were guaranteed. So it was a mixture of emotions, but like it was all a big surprise, like a surreal like event. You know, Shane McMahon at a show with other WWE officials, you know. So
I remember watching that on TV live, and I remember Shane looking really nervous in the ring. And maybe I'm just projecting here, but the way I like imagined it is like he gets there and like people are like, "What are you doing here? This is our turf. Like, get away." It's actually nice to know that he was welcomed.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. It was just the whole company. It just felt like it was going down fast. Like it felt like whatever you want, the Titanic, whatever analogy you want to use, but like it just felt like it was the end, you know. And I guess him being there and just was ripping the Band-Aid off, you know. And the fact that he was there to go on TV was very interesting as well.
Great storyline.
Absolutely, like Twilight Zone stuff, you know. So, and it was what's great is, although pretty shortly up, you know, picking up my contract and stuff, I was a little bit part of the Invasion stuff. But O'Hare and myself, we went to developmental right away and stuff, you know. But like at least we got part of the stuff like in Atlanta where like 5 of us were fighting with 5 of the WWE guys in the ring in the middle of Atlanta, and then all of a sudden like the ECW guys come from the crowd and they join us, and you know that was crazy for wrestling, like every wrestling fan's dream, you know. Like it was like, wow, that just happened, and we got ECW, WCW, WWE, like it was crazy, you know. So I'm glad I get to be part of that a little bit, and even my time when we got sent down to developmental, you know, OVW was at that time, it was arguably the greatest class of wrestling, or that, you know, era of wrestling ever, you know, from Cena's, Bautista, Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas, Randy Orton, myself, O'Hare, Victoria, Jackie Gata, I mean, Big John, what's his name? Big John. I forget. Can't remember his name. We're friends. But everybody, you know, like a ton of people. So that was a great experience as well. And I think that's where we really, in WCW, we were really green. We got thrown on TV and we survived because, you know, in a pack, all of our little, and our athleticism, we did like crazy moves, like Sean O'Hare did the Swanton, or I did some springboard clotheslines and stuff, you know, for big guys like that. Wow. Kind of covered up our shitty, you know, arm drag we took, you know, like, so we're green, but in WWE, we kind of exposed ourselves a little bit, you know. So, they sent us to developmental, which it sucked at the time because it felt like you're going backwards, but like, then you're in a class with all these like unbelievable wrestlers who is about to break out as the next stars. And you're like, you know what, this isn't so bad, you know. And then you make a bond with those people, you know, like Orton and I became good friends, Charlie Haas, Shelton. And then then you're comfortable on the next level. Garrison Cade, I forgot about him, God rest his soul. Nick Densmore, you know, Eugene, Rob Conway, the Bashams. I mean, I'm still naming people from this class. So every day our classes were ridiculous, you know, and promo class, and we had fun. Like it was big fun. We worked hard, but you know, it was big fun.
I just felt like, unfortunately, a lot of the guys who were stars in WCW really didn't get a chance to shine in WWF for whatever reason. Maybe there was too many people on the roster. Maybe they were focusing on their guys, but it was just unfortunate because I loved both Raw and Nitro, and the guys I loved on Nitro, like you guys, weren't really getting a lot of airtime.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was because a lot of us were green, you know, and and like I said, again, thank God, like, you know, when you're 6'6", you know, especially at the time, you know, WWE was still the land of the giants, kind of, you know. It wasn't until about 2003, 2004 when Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit and stuff, you know, started winning like where it actually accepted. Before, it was always like, besides like Bret Hart, it was always like the Psycho Sid and Kevin
and Shawn
Nash.
Michaels, like they were really the only ones.
Yeah, like usually it was even the rings kind of like favored a big man, running the ropes. Like the ropes are, but like, so it was like a changing of the guard kind of, so.
Yeah. Was you being friends with Randy Orton what led to you originally being part of Evolution?
I don't know, that I don't know. Actually, before that, I think we just kind of were becoming friends in Louisville. When I had flown up to Stanford and they had told me about, I remember I was there with Mordecai. They told Mordecai about what the gimmick they wanted him to work on, or Orlando Jordan. They told him about what he was going to do, and I was going to be in the Evolution, so. And then that's when I was going to be in Evolution, and Orton, obviously was joining Evolution as well, this group. Like, that's when we kind of like became friends and we started hanging. We figured, well, you know what, we're going to be in a group. So let's just, let's hang. We started going to the gym together and stuff in Louisville. And then on TV, we just continued our friendship and stuff, which turned into a brotherhood, it was crazy. Him and I were just really, really good friends. We really enjoyed like traveling together and stuff. And it was just fun traveling. And I think it was a little too much fun. That's why, eventually I got kicked out of the Evolution idea. But, it was great times. He's a really good guy. And he's, in my opinion, top five of all time wrestlers in WWE.
So how long was it from them pitching you the idea of being an Evolution to them just changing their mind and deciding, you know what, we're going to go with somebody else?
I'm not sure of the timeline, but the timeline I always envisioned the way it was going. I mean, that's when we became friends, and then he started sending us up on TV. And I want to say I was doing like maybe just heat matches or something, or I don't even remember. But I remember just personally, even though I knew I was part of the group, I remember just getting scared about it, because I remember every week on Raw they would do these polls. I can almost hear Jerry King Lawler now, like, who's the next member of Evolution? And it shows a poll like of Test or Kevin Nash or Jericho or somebody like a big stars, like stars, like, I can't remember the exact names. And I was like, man, like I'm the next guy, like, but like they're naming they're having these polls, they're hyping it up. And like, yeah, I was, I had a little, we were tag team champions in WCW, but it was not, I was not that known, so I felt like they're hyping it up really big. And then like, also like, I never connected with Triple H, like, I felt like we had a relationship where like, maybe he was like an older brother and I was like an annoying younger brother, and just Orton and I, like I said, Orton and I together we're two immature young guys who loved having fun, like we enjoyed like traveling on the road. It's crazy. Like we you always rent cars with your buddies and you travel from city to city. And of course him and I travel together, and guys are always zooming out of the arenas to get to the next city. Like I can remember Bob Holly and stuff going, yeah, I think we can make it in 2 hours and 45 minutes to the next town. He's talking to somebody else, and me and Orton just took our time. We'd stop at like a 24-hour Walmart or something because we needed to get some shaving cream or something, like, and just take our time, and stop at a convenience store and, get a slush puppy or something, something stupid. But that those times were fun. And what happened was, when the whole idea was coming to Evolution, Triple H started getting us together on the house show loops. So we went from me and Orton having a great old time, from city to city, turned into car rides with Triple H, Ric Flair, and both myself and Randy, which was cool. But like our young bunch was kind of cramping our style, like man. Now Flair was always cool. Like, in fact, I think that was like the deciding factor where like Triple H is like, man, I got to cut the cord on this. And he referred to it in that documentary about ruthless aggression and stuff. He was like, I wanted to kick him out of the car. I want to kick him out, throw him over a bridge or something. And like, it makes sense because we're like, man, we're like young kids, like, are we there yet? That type of stuff. And if we're being annoying kids, Flair really loves the, he's still a kid at the heart himself, Ric Flair,
Sure.
So with these, like, and I said it a million times, it seems like, but with these car rides, we were supposed to be talking about the X's and O's and the this formation of the group and what it means and stuff, turned into immature hour for me and Orton in the back seat. Like, literally, the only thing was missing was Triple H turning around with, like, you know, basically, I'm gonna just pull this car over and spank you guys. Like, that's the only thing that was missing. And then that, if it wasn't that, us being immature idiots, it'd be like Ric Flair, like, you know, asking us about, like, oh, the girls we met, you know, a few nights before or something. And then
I'm sure Rick was trying to pick him up with you guys too.
Well, but the conversation would go in that direction. That was not the direction that Triple H wanted to go. It was supposed to be more towards, like, you know, X's and O's and talking about the business and stuff. And like, after a couple loops, a couple car rides, he probably, like many who rode with me and Orton, probably he like I said, he wanted to kick us out of the car, kick us over a bridge or something. So
was it Triple H who finally said, "Sorry, Mark," or was it Vince?
Well, no, it was, if you know, in the documentary too, like, for me, it was like a relief to hear, you know, like, the real thing that happened. And she said, I told Vince he's not for the group. And Vince said, yeah, he is. And he goes, no, me and Rick, what I didn't like is he included Rick in that. I mean, me and Rick felt he wasn't good for the group. Like, Rick never had a problem. I think it was Triple H, you know, like, but he's the one to pretty much put the axe down, you know. And you know, he talked about it, you know, we were supposed to bring our suits to film the vignettes and stuff, and they filmed it. And I guess he kind of, like, knew I wasn't gonna be in it, you know, so it kind of sucked, you know. But but like I said, I was so mature that I didn't even realize it was going on, really. You know, it was like, it's like when you're an athlete and stuff, when you're young and an athlete and you have that, like, you just feel like you can create anything you want, like,
sure,
you know. So
you've got to be able to look back now with hindsight and go, geez, that would have been a really big opportunity for my wrestling career.
Oh, absolutely. Every time I see Bautista in one of these direct TV commercials or whatever, or these you know, for his movies, I think about that. But, like, we're different kind of wrestlers, you know. And he might have fit the enforcer thing a lot better than I will, you know. Like, so I don't, you know, looking back on it now, like, you know, you can always say what if and stuff, but it always, you know, forever go back and forth. But it's one of these things where, was it good to have him bad, you know, because then I went to Mexico and, like, I you know, and
you became a megastar there. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that you were a huge star in Mexico.
Yeah, you know,
on TV.
It kind of flew under the radar for a while because I had a name change. I was Marco Corleone, you know. And
you said that with the most American non-Spanish accent ever.
Yeah. Actually, if I said, like, American, to be like Marco Corleone, you know, but, like, in Mexico it was Marco Corleone, and with the A, Marco Corleone. And that was kind of like, you know, that the one thing in that whole documentary WWE, which they didn't really express, was like, or talk about, you know, they have to do it because it's WWE videos where it's not the end all be all. Like, they act as if, like, you're not an Evolution, then you know, I'm roadkill, you know. Like, it didn't happen like that, you know. Like, yeah, we parted ways. I got the dreaded call from Johnny Laurinaitis and got released, and, you know, but, like, not too much shortly after that, I discovered Mexico, you know, and kept going, you know. So, you know.
How did you get this break to be on this soap opera the first time?
The soap opera in Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's really what broke out for you, right?
No, not really. What kind of, I give credit for my breakout with in 2006 when I went there. The crazy thing what happened was, that spot for Marco Corleone was actually for Chuck Palumbo, because Johnny the Bull and Chuck Palumbo went in March of 2006 do some Ultimo Dragon shows, okay? And they had, like, a little angle they were running or something. And after that, they came back to the States. WWE rehired Chuck Palumbo. So now Johnny the Bull is going to go back in May of 2006. And now he needed, like, another Italian buddy to be FBI with him. So Mark Jindrak, you know, wasn't really Italian. So I went over there and I was Marco. They they made the name Marco Corleone for me. And I played that Italian guy in May of 2006, and immediately I fell in love with it, so my big break was basically getting a chance to wrestle in Arena Mexico and CMLL. That's the company, Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre.
Yeah.
So I got the wrestling with there, and at that time, the every Friday in Arena Mexico, that's like the cathedral of Lucha Libre. That's like our Madison Square Garden, but we run that every single Friday night. So we were having crowds of 11, 12, 13,000 people week after week, because the figure at that time was called Mystico, which became, I don't know, Caristico or Sin Cara or something in WWE at one point. But Mystico was super, super over in 2006. So basically, when I decided to eventually stay there and become a regular wrestler in Mexico and live there, I'd be tag team partners. It was always 3-on-3. And usually my partner was Mystico. So they'd see Mystico, but they'd also see this guy that was 6'6", without a mask, 255 pounds.
Yeah.
And my athleticism really started working for me, because in WWE, the athletic things I wanted to do, like we did that, Garrison Kidd did that drop kick thing where you hold the guy up and I drop kick him, that was pretty cool. But like, it was always one of these things where like, well, if you're doing this, and what's Billy Kidman going to do? Like if you're going to do a springboard clothesline, that they always kind of put the brakes on the stuff. Like I kind of had handcuffs on my athleticism, but in Mexico was like, if you can do it, do it. The bigger and the better, the cooler. And my first matches were in CMLL were with Alberto Del Rio, who's Dos Caras Jr., and Lismark, who was in WCW for a few years as well. They spoke English, so it was kind of, so I was a rudo or a heel when I first came, and then once I learned, started learning Spanish, I saw Mexico as like, because if anyone knows like the character Vampiro, obviously, and from wrestling, he was a mega star in the 90s. I can't say it enough. He was a huge star. And I envisioned the chance to become that same guy, but like the 2000s version of, but in many regards, I felt like I was in Arena Mexico. That was my arena as well, because they had that ramp leading to the ring. So my famous move was the Air Corleone, or Aero Italia, they call it, where I'd run down the ramp and jump over the ropes and do like a flying crossbody. And that stuff was like, man, that was next level athleticism stuff. It was crazy. And for me, it was super simple, but for the people watching, it was like, this guy is pretty big, and I was really muscular at the time, and like just in really good shape. So I started getting over, and then I got over, like, there were cool moves. So it was like the whole heel Rudo character, like that's just, as a foreigner, you always become, in Mexico, they always put you as like the bad character, because it's easy to be the bad gringo,
Sure.
But I didn't, like, and it was crazy because when my last time in SmackDown and stuff I traveled with Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. Those guys were my travel partners. So the Mexican culture, I kind of had a back, learning of the culture, but not so much, So just going there and stuff, it was kind of just surreal, and just I ended up getting, I just got over, I got over.
Yeah.
It was almost like I got released. I never thought I'd get released from WWE, first of all, because when you're an athlete's athlete, like, you saw those things in the WWE videos and that thing. Like, one time I jumped and touched something that was 12'2" on the first Shane McMahon in Staples Center. I touched something in Staples Center, and they measured it 12'2". Like I had, but for some reason, and backstage, you asked a lot of the guys that were there at the time, the whole thing on me was, man, like, I was always a character backstage. Like, me and Orton had our little antics and stuff, and I just fed off of him and fed off the boys. I love the camaraderie backstage, so that just made me happy. And I'd be very outgoing, charismatic backstage. And a lot of times people would say, man, why can't you do that out there? And I always had like a disconnect for some reason. And it just, when I got released, it was like, what? Like, okay, well, maybe I struggle with who Mark Jindrak is, because Mark Jindrak is a guy who collects baseball cards and stuff and plays video games and, kind of to myself, but like, then all of a sudden, like, it just kind of like they released me, and I was like, man, this is strange. Like, I've always been just an athlete. Well, now what do I do? Like, I'm not going back to Denny's, wait tables. So it really light a fire in my ass. Like, it was like, and I wasn't feeling Japan. A lot of, unfortunately, a lot of the, I mean, not unfortunately, wrestlers, they love Japan. Like, they love the culture, and I love the culture too. But like, it was never like a dream of mine. Like, I want to say this, not no disrespect to the profession of wrestling, but like, it was never my like dream. Like, if you would have given me a choice, be the 12th man on the NBA bench and you'll play like 5 minutes the whole year, 82 games, 5 minutes, or be the heavyweight champion and go on a huge long run like a JBL or something, I would rather be the 12th man on the NBA bench. Like,
that's where your passion was.
That's where my passion was.
Basketball.
So it just, it lit a fire under my ass. So when I went to Mexico, it was like, I didn't know politics anymore. I didn't know who the big political figures were and stuff. And I made my mark quick. Like, I remember one time there was a guy, Dr. Wagner. He's a Mexican legend there. And his brother was Silver King, who passed away. God rest his soul. Ramses. And I remember like a match, in Arena, Mexico, where he slapped me in the face, slapped the shit out of me, and I took his head off of the clothesline, like shoot style, like, and I probably wouldn't have done that in WWE if I knew it was like a political figure that could bury me,
Yeah.
And I didn't give a shit in Mexico. Like, I just said, fuck it, I just got fired. Now I'm gonna just show you. Want to see my you want to see what I got? See what I got. And like, that's when I did my best stuff, and I got over in the ring. Like, I got over as Technico, a babyface. I started doing the Rick Rude. Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig were always my favorite wrestlers. So I started doing the Rick Rude, hip swivel, and that got over huge. It was crazy. So,
if things were going so well for you in Mexico and you were so over, what brought you back to the U.S.?
Well, actually, go back a little bit. That's when I kind of got over, and that's when the acting came along. Okay, that's when the novellas, the big time TV came.
What was your line on the novella? You were telling
me. Picadillo. So that was my famous line. This novella.
What does that mean?
Soap opera. I'm gonna make chop meat of you. Like, I'm gonna chop. Like, it's like an old school. Like, if I said that to you in a fight, like, I'm gonna make chop meat of you, boy, you'd probably laugh at me. Like, what the hell are you, like, grandpa? What are you talking about, grandpa? And just the way I said it. So like, in this soap opera, it was prime time, like, they don't come on in the afternoon here in the United States. They come at prime time. This was like a huge production. And the crazy thing was, the first episode was me and pretty much the main star. His name was Fernando Colunga. He's like almost like the George Clooney of Mexico. Very respected actor, very private, very, that handsome Mexico guy, like, so we filmed in Chicago, and we felt like I was like a Russian, like, bad guy and stuff. And we ran into each other in Chicago. And the story goes like, I actually ran into him. He was on his bicycle. My limo hit him, and I'm like, oh, I thought he was going to sue me. So I was like, if you need anything, come see me. And in the story, he finds out that he has a daughter of 7 years old that his ex-girlfriend didn't tell him about. So he doesn't have much money. He needs money for a plane ticket. So he comes to me. I give him the money for the plane ticket, but I dirtily stash money inside of a suitcase, saying, well, can you bring the suitcase to an orphanage on your way to Monterrey, Mexico? And he's like, yeah, sure. He gets caught by the police crossing, and border, and he tells the cops on me. So they come, they arrest me. It's supposed to be a one-shot deal. That's it, one episode. But when I was in jail, my lawyer says to me, yeah, Jesus Garcia, that was the main character's name, El Canto. It means he sung. He told on you. And in my cell, I get all mad, and I gather myself. I said, Ellen Feliz de Jesus Garcia, which means, kind of like the ungrateful Jesus Garcia. I said, lo voy a hacer picadillo. And I said it super peculiar, as like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 90s would say, I'll be back. Hasta la vista, baby. Which is
the choppa.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a tumor. Like that, it hit like that. Like, and
Wow.
if I'm not mistaken, it trended on Twitter in Mexico, like trended on Twitter. The it was supposed to be a one-shot deal, but like the producer after that blew up and was getting crazy social media hits and stuff. And remember, and I want to let me say this: the ratings for the first episode was like 33. Okay, yeah, 33. Not like
Wow.
Raw. When I was on Raw back in the day, it did like a 27, 29, and people were like, "Oh, this did like 33 with a 56% share." So it was on open TV, free television, Televisa in Mexico. So huge.
Yeah.
Like, and they all heard that saying, "They will ask for picadillo," and they went crazy for it. The next day, the production crew called me and said, they loved it, and they're gonna keep me, start filming from jail because I'm in jail. But I'm gonna keep saying it. Eventually, I'll get out of jail, and that one episode turned into like 187 episodes, like a crazy
That's
amount.
insane.
To where like I starred, like the name of the episode actually Uri Petrovsky was my name, so Uri escapes from, like, I had like 5 or 6 episodes named after
Man.
Uri, and let me grant you, after it did huge ratings in Mexico, it went over to Univision in the United States, and on national rankings, I used to get the national rankings for national TV, like we're talking Fox, NBC, ABC, and Univision's on those, one of the big ones.
Yeah.
We like literally that novella would be top 5 every night in ratings. Like one night we were as high as 3. Like I think it was like the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was number 1 in ratings for the night in national TV. Number 2 was like some kind of like big reality cook show. And number 3 was Por qué el amor manda. That was my novella. And like,
Man.
so, and like was crazy. Like number 6 was like Modern Family. Number 8 was like, 2.5 Men or something. So like, it's crazy to think on a given night nationally, more
Yeah.
people saw Uri Petrovsky than Sofia Vergara, So,
So,
um,
going back to what I was saying then, like if everything's going so well, why not stay in Mexico?
well, what kind of happened over time was Lucha Libre declined big time, the business. In 2006, 2007, 2008, 2000, even 2009, Lucha Libre was booming that, but like all of a sudden, like that on that same television, Televisa and TVS Tech are the big ones, the free open TV, WWE came on those channels now in 2009. So all of a sudden, like the point where they just dominated the TV screen. So like we'd always get pushed aside. We'd be on Televisa, but like if there's a soccer game or some kind of sporting event more important than we get pushed to the side. And to the point where like we ended up going with another TV, syndicate that was way, way, way less rating. So honestly, for a while, like I'd still do these high rated morning programs or novellas. Like after that novella soap opera, I'd get a lot more, like I was the big guy, like you wanted to. And it was crazy. The next soap opera that came out by that producer, I came back and I said the same slogan, "Te voy a hacer picadillo." So imagine like, Arnold Schwarzenegger using "I'll be back," "Hasta la vista" in a completely different movie, like,
Yeah.
but I was a good guy this time. Like I helped the good guy character,
That's so funny.
so I rode that way for a while, and just so all these parts would come along. But like what was happening was the wrestling gigs, just my body was like I remained one of the top stars in CMLL for a while, like one of the top technicos. And in 2017, I just started getting, I started getting older, like nearing 40. I think the thing that really killed me is I started making more trips back to the United States. My son, who was born in 2016, he's 5 now. He was 1 year old and stuff, and I'm still traveling around Mexico and stuff. I just, it got a little more unsafe in Mexico at the time. Uh, it just the peso, the value of the peso went down. So like, literally, my money from 2006 to 2017, 18 was like went down drastically. Even though my stardom became bigger, like the peso went down as my stardom got, like, so I almost made the same as I first got there because it sucked. And then in 2017, one of our top baby faces named Atlantis, he went down with a bad like patella knee injury or something. So I worked like an obscene amount of times. It just burnt me out. I started making more trips with my family back to the United States, showing my wife who had never been to the United States before me, you know, like started showing all these places. And I just, you know, I decided to make the move. And it actually worked out because it happened right before the pandemic. And it just, because of the pandemic, I stayed out of it. I stayed gone, you know, so I just felt like it was time. So that's all it really was. And then the acting gigs too, like, I figured I'd pick that up in the United States and do more of that. But like,
you still can. You still can.
No, I still can.
Not a lot of 44-year-olds that look like you.
Oh, appreciate it. And I, you know, I can do some dad, you know, older dad parts or something. I don't know.
What are you older dad? Jeez, come on.
I'm always harder on myself, you know. I always make it sound worse than it really is.
Like, should I pull up this Instagram photo and remind you of what you look like? It's unreal.
Yeah. Which one are you referring to?
The one you just posted the other day when you said you were back in ring shape.
Yeah. I worked really hard to get in that back in shape like that. You know, I never really got out of shape. It's just if you keep a good diet, you know, if you eat well, I just think that whatever you put in your body is how you're going to look, you know, like I might be not as big as I was before, but it's just because I don't eat as much, you know. So
what do you weigh now? Like 225?
No. I'm probably now about, I think 238.
Right.
So again, I look a lot skinnier and thinner, but I hold the weight really well. So like, you know, but I like, what's good is because I took some dates in wrestling, you know, again, it's helped me get back. It kind of helped me get back in the shape I want to be in after wrestling, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to carry all that 250 pounds around and stuff. And if I ate like crazy 5-6 times a day, I could get back to that. But like, it's too much. It's too much. It burns you out. So I, you know, but getting back that push, you know, like I want to be that range, like 230, 235, like rigid, ripped, you know, athletic frame. Like,
are you open to
into my 50s? You know, I want to be like that, athletic speaking.
Are you open to taking more bookings now?
Yeah. But I find myself doing more lucha libre bookings, you know, because there's kind of like two wrestlers, you know, like one is Marco Corleone, who's, you know, in your southern part of California, southern part of Texas, and then you got Mark Jindrak, the rest of the United States. And to be honest with you, like you know, I could talk about all the things that happened, all the wonderful things that happened in lucha libre, all the events where I shined, huge pops, like wow events where I met like crazy people and stuff. You know, where I was the star of the show, where I was a star of, and like I had moments, you know, where in WWE, like, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I felt mediocre at best the whole time. And I don't feel like I was like the enhancement talent. I don't feel like I was a superstar, you know. So and that's not the way I roll, you know, like I demand excellence, but it showed me, and it should show a lot of people, especially now there's so many options to go to. Is WWE wasn't always the, you know, at one point in time, you think at that point in time, you know, before I knew about Mexico, it was like, well, the only way to get to 10 in the wrestling world is 5 + 5. That's WWE, you know. But as I found wrestling in Mexico, or, you know, this or that, like you could get to 10 by 8 + 2 and 7 + 3. It didn't always have to be the proverbial or the run of the mill 5 + 5, you know. And that's what I learned. And it was great. Like I'm glad it happened. You know, you can always I can always go back and say, what if with Evolution? But like, I had a really cool 12 years, like really, really good time, really cool 12 years where like I was for probably a peak 2008, 2009, 2010. Like I was a hot figure in Mexico. Like in all the, like the big star magazines, I was winning like best abs, and, you know, dated a few actresses and stuff, or, you know, or, you know, you get in those paparazzi magazines and stuff. And it was cool. Like and my friends were there with me. Like my best friends there were Rocky Romero, and Alex Kozlov, you know. So those guys are my boys, you know. It felt like Natural Born Thrillers all over again. And it was just a great time in my life. And then eventually when I settled down and became, you know, I understood who was who in Mexico, and, you know, I gave a shit about the political structure. You know, I simmered down. I found a beautiful woman, married her. We had a baby together, and you know, it kind of the rest is history, you know? So
Yeah. Look at you now.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
I've been trying to make this interview with you happen for so long. So like, since I saw you, I think it was last summer at that event we were at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
Legends of
Maven.
Hamburg in
Yeah, it was the
Pennsylvania.
first time I saw Maven in a while too. So
Yeah. Yeah. That was when I did an interview with Maven that day. And then I came over to you and I'm like, we need to do an interview. So we're doing it now. I'm so glad. Mark, this has been amazing. So thank you so much for taking some time tonight to do this.
no, thank you, man. I love seeing your posts on Instagram, all the great artists and stuff that you've interviewed and stuff. So congrats to you. Like, it's really, really awesome.
Thanks, man. I feel like you and I are just both getting started and I love it. You know,
Yeah, right.
future's bright. I end every conversation with the same question because I love gratitude. I practice gratitude every single day. So Mark, for you, what are 3 things in your life that you're grateful for right now?
My family, number one, my family, peace of mind, you know, like mental health and mental being okay inside your body is so underrated, you know, like it's such a big thing. So I have peace. I have real pure peace. And, I think I'm grateful for having faith, being brought up with faith and having a church I can go to and flex my spirit, you know? So yeah, those 3 things. Family,
Flexing the
peace,
gym and flexing in the spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mark, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.